Welcome to 10 Bestest, where we sift through the noise so you don't have to. I'm Karen McFarland-Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
If you're interested in having a side gig, maybe teaching online with a digital course, you're going to want to hear what I have to share.
And I am going to share some amazing productivity hacks. Let's get to it.
My cool sheet I'll be talking about is an online teaching tool, and this is called Kajabi. Because of the pandemic, of course, this is no surprise. There's been a huge surge of not just children and not just college students learning online, but also people who want to learn more new skills, gain more knowledge in any certain area. And we've already talked about a few examples of that, such as when Brian talked about Masterclass in episode 99 of 10 Bestest. However, I want to point out another opportunity with these learning platforms, and that is not just for the consumer who wants to learn, but for all of us who have knowledge or expertise that we want to share. We can set up our own way to teach online and reach anyone in the world who has internet access. And as long as you have a smartphone or some way to easily capture video, and you have a computer, you could set up an entire digital course on how to do woodworking or beginning black and white photography or how to be successful on TikTok, or like me, have a kids science program. There are a lot of different platforms out there to choose from. I'm talking about Kajabi, but there are also ones like Thinkific, Teachable, many others. So what I did over a year ago is I did a lot of research on about 8 to 10 of these different ones. And I decided to go with Kajabi, and I have been absolutely thrilled with it. Not only was it really straightforward to set up my course, and yes, I've been teaching, but I never set up a digital course before by my own. They provide a ton of resources to help you. They have an online community where you can ask questions, and they make it a really nice experience for the user, for my students as well. And one of my favorite features that Kajabi has that most of them do not have is they have their own app. So anyone who signs up for my course, they can access it from their smartphone really easily. They have updates, improvements all the time. I highly encourage you, if you're considering teaching as a side income and having a digital course, to check out Kajabi.
Oh, cool. I'm really glad you talked about this one. I ended up, I forgot how, but it was on this Teachable kind of conference. And, so it was all about, there's tons of good information because I don't have an online course or anything, but it was a lot of good information about social media and things like that. I think I was using it for podcast info. But they talked about, even though it was through Teachable, they did talk about some of the other ones. Maybe the speakers did. I don't think Teachable specifically did.
Yeah, they're like,
yeah. But they do. It's like, look, there is competition, and these are some of the features. So I kind of looked, because I've only really heard of Teachable, I think. So I kind of dived into some of these, but never really had a reason to dig further. So that's really cool. I'm really glad that you shared that resource of which one you enjoy the most.
Yeah, and they have, now that you can podcast on it, I mean, everyone wants to podcast, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the best way to podcast, but if you wanted to just incorporate that, that's in there. They're always growing and expanding. So I've just loved Kajabi.
That's cool.
And it's such a funny word.
Yeah, it is.
Now,
do you know what it comes from? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
If you're like KAJ, and Kajabi will pop right up. Because how many words start with KAJ?
Right. Yeah. Certainly not in the United States. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
Yes.
And, I really liked how you shared that even though you've been a professor for a long time, starting an online course is very different.
Totally different.
So that's great. Just a good thing to share with other people out there that might have that same experience. And then there's experience like me. I haven't taught and I haven't done a course. And then I did do kind of a virtual but localized how to start a podcast class. And I remember I was just like, I have no idea. So I'm wondering, do you know if these resources that they have are available for people that didn't sign up but maybe are thinking about starting? Would they be able to get some of this information?
Yeah, so do you mean someone who they want to start a digital course, but they've never taught anything before?
Yeah, no idea where to start.
Totally.
Okay, totally.
Cool. They have beginner stuff, and they have a free trial.
Oh,
so
perfect.
you can try out. In fact, the normal free trial is 2 weeks, but the link, I'm pretty sure the link, I'll look into getting a free month for anyone who clicks on it. And then that just gives you more time to play. 2 weeks goes by really fast.
Yeah.
So
you got to be serious when that 2 weeks starts. And really focus.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have things about how to set up, how to organize it. And in fact, the default, when you open up your first course, the default is it's organized in a way that is helpful for teaching.
Oh, very cool.
So it's
great.
kind of like a default outline, so to speak.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
yes.
show notes.
Yes.
10bestest.com/answer.
Perfect. All right. Yes, I will check the show notes out myself. All right. I'm going to be talking about a YouTube video. I've been spending a lot of time, no big surprise, on YouTube because we started this YouTube channel, and also because with starting a YouTube channel, I'm looking at better ways to, I've been getting a lot busier doing this show 5 days a week on YouTube. And so I've been looking at a lot of productivity hacks, and this YouTube video is the best productivity hacks of all time. And this is according to the creator of this video, Ali Abdaal. More on him later. He ranks them in a tiered list ranking system. So this is maybe familiar to some, but it was a little bit different than me. But it starts with S, and he calls it life-changing. A is for essential, B is for useful and nice to know, C is for nice to have, D works for others, just not for me, and E and F is junk. That makes more sense on the F, at least. So he talks about all these, and I'm going to try to rip through as many as I can. He talks about the Pomodoro technique, which was actually a former cool sheet, and also the 2-minute rule, which you talked about, Karen, in episode 188. So some of these are familiar for us. Talked about the 2-day rule. So you got the 2-minute rule, or you got the 2-day rule. So the 2-minute, if it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it right that second. The 2-day rule is a little bit different. Never to miss 2 days of something in a row. So let's say you're trying to work out, just don't skip more than 2 days in a row. That's what this is kind of doing. Time blocking is a really good one. The 5-minute rule. So a lot of these minute rules and things like this. Systems, which was a really cool one. I think that I'll implement more. Daily highlight, batching, color coding, to-do list, consuming content at 2 times speeds. I've talked about this actually before. Deadlines, the Eisenhower matrix, which was just last week I talked about. Goals, and enjoying the journey. So try some of these out. See which ones work for you. Remember that everybody's different. You want to find the ones that work for you the most. But I will say, pro tip, don't get just spent in researching, and then it kind of talks about that nothing alternative that you talked about later. So, but do try some of these out. Just be careful. Don't get too down the rabbit hole. This is the best productivity hacks of all time.
Oh, I love this for so many reasons. First off, that whole thing about don't spend too much time researching and then not do it. Oh, yes. I'm so guilty of that. I do that so much.
I know.
Thank you for that reminder. And then also, I loved you just going boom, boom, boom through all of these because it just reminded me of those.
Yes.
And so I love that you did it now. Now, the link that you're going to provide, it probably doesn't have that list, right? Or because you're going to link to his YouTube channel. So how could I just get to see that list again?
Well, easy, and that's a good question. So go to his YouTube video, look at his See More section, and it's all chapter marked.
Oh, perfect.
So you could definitely look at them all there, and then it will chapter, and it will take you right to that section. So if you want to hear his thoughts, and it would only be a minute or two per technique. So you can see the whole list on his kind of show notes of YouTube, and then you can look at them. Our show notes will just be the link to his video because I really do want you to check out this video. It's really good.
Yeah.
And I will say, I kind of teased this on one of our comment sections. So the Pomodoro technique, I think you're a big fan. Is that true?
I love it.
You love it?
I use it every day.
I do not like it. So this is a good example of one that works for some, and for me, 25 minutes, I'm especially for work, editing, 20 minutes, I am just getting in the flow. And if I break that up, it's awful for me. I need like a good 40. I do need a break, but it's longer for me. So I need one like 20, I'm just getting in the flow, and it will totally derail me and my work will suffer. So again, make sure what works for you and then use that. there's all these different techniques. That's what I like. I mean, last week I talked about a different kind of thinking models and decision-making techniques, and now I'm talking about productivity techniques. Again, this is on the forefront of my mind because I'm trying to be more efficient with doing these YouTube videos all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's remember that, yeah, some work for other people. That doesn't mean they're bad. That just means they don't work for you. Find the ones that will. And then, yeah, and then there's just getting stuck. Are you researching so much that you're just not getting anything done? And I'm actually pretty good at that, but you can always be better. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, for me with the Pomodoro, I totally hear you on the flow. I totally understand that. But my days are so chopped up that I lose track of time, and I'll get something and I'll get in the flow, and then 3 hours go by and I'm like, oh no, I was supposed to do this at 2 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
So it reminds me, wow, 25 minutes have passed. And so even if I have to just stand up, stretch, sit back down, and go for another 25 minutes, it helps me.
Yeah,
because I just get lost.
Yeah, because I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, except for the lost in time part, so some of that would be like time blocking, and I think you've talked about time blocking before, so that's a good one. You know, I have 2 hours to work on this. You could set an alarm for 2 hours, and the 5-minute rule kind of talks about, this is more the one I like. Because I get daunted about just starting, and for a lot of people, that's the hardest thing to do. So my rule is 5 minutes. Just start it for 5 minutes and see where it goes. And that's usually enough to start kicking it into the flow and things like that. And then, you know, you can mix those two. For me, that's what I would do. Time blocking, okay, I only have an hour to do my show notes, but I just need to start for 5 minutes and see where that goes, and then focus. I also need to work more on, I need to read that book by, I think it's Cal Newport, Deep Focus, because I am still, my biggest thing right now is just like, oh, I go down these little tangents, and then I need to focus on the work and get it done.
Yeah.
So,
outstanding. Thank you so much for that. It's
You're
great.
so welcome.
Thank you for joining us, friend. I'm Karen McFarland-Holman.
And I'm Brian Hart.
Tell us in the comments below, what is a digital course that you could start and teach?
And let us know in the comments below, which one of these productivity hacks is your favorite, and what maybe one that you've never heard of that you want to try.
Please like and tell a friend about 10 Bestest.
And stay tuned tomorrow for another great show.
And don't forget to stay curious.